Now on to our next project group. And I would like to say before we get started on this one, that there might be some triggering conversations in this particular project presentation. So just please be aware of that. It's been a tough year, we all know that. Well, it's been a tough 18 months. It's been a year that feels like it's gone for a decade. And while some of us may have really struggled, there have been others in our community who have really done it tough. Our young people have faced some incredible difficulties, and some of you may be aware that there have been also some significant lives lost through suicide with young people in our region, specifically over the past 18 months, more than we had experienced in the past. It's a devastating landscape, and some people are even suggesting that whilst COVID's one thing, the upshot of the detriment to the mental health, particularly of our young people moving forward, could be a far worse pandemic than what we're already facing. With that in mind, the next group of project group from the Leaders for Geelong are doing some incredible stuff. They're working with Lifeline to develop materials for parents of children in years 7 to 9, that crucial, really difficult time for kids to have conversations around mental health and suicide. These are tough conversations, and they're tough things to say to adults, let alone have that conversation with kids. And often people won't do it because it's too upsetting. Well, the group has gotten together, working with Lifeline to figure out a way to.
Thanks, Roxie. I'm very pleased to introduce our group that has been working with Lifeline Geelong and South West Victoria. The members of the group are Luke Gibson from the Bendigo Bank, Joe Janes from Victoria Police, Andrew Crowley from Deakin, and I'm Anita Sagnol representing GMHBA. Lifeline initiated this project as they saw a gap in suicide prevention activities. There was limited support for parents to help them firstly identify that their child may be suicidal, and then how to deal with that situation. This project sought to provide recommendations to Lifeline on how they could solve for this gap. We all took on this project for quite personal reasons, but we were all shocked to see the statistics related to youth suicide. Suicide is the leading cause of death of children between 5 and 17 years, and the rate of suicide is increasing. 1 in 40 12 to 17-year-olds will attempt suicide. Think about a youth in your life and the number of kids in their class. Based on this statistic, 1 in 40 of those will attempt suicide while they are in high school. And that was pre-COVID. Since COVID began, there has been a 51% increase in self-harm presentations in young people at emergency departments. Self-harm includes suicide attempts, and it's only going to get worse. It has been forecast that there will be a 32% increase in mental health disorders amongst youth by mid-2023. Yet there is hope that things will change. The Mental Health Royal Commission's final recommendations were delivered earlier this year, and multiple initiatives will be put in place for youth. There will be a significant investment and sweeping changes to how our youth are supported in their mental health and how parents are supported as part of this. This will also include a significant uplift in the focus on suicide prevention. We have also seen a rise in groups focused on supporting youth mental health and suicide prevention. This has been delivered in schools and sports clubs and has created a lot of positive change, with more to come from more formal collaborative groups. So whilst there is hope on the horizon, we cannot ignore that there is an immediate need. Our research found that right now, parents feel unsupported, they feel overwhelmed, and they're unsure where to turn. They feel let down by a system in crisis, where wait times for mental health services are just too long. And they feel alone. They feel alone due to the stigma, as well as the lack of supports and engagement of the family in the current system. Part of the response is that we need to have more conversations about youth suicide. And this is clearly evident when we see the impact on Geelong over the last 18 months, which Joe will now take us through.
Thanks, Anita. 6 youth suicides impacted the Geelong region in 2020. That year, by September, almost half of Victoria's then 13 suicide deaths amongst boys under 18 occurred in Geelong. That year, all 6 youth suicides in Geelong involved a male aged between 15 to 17 years who was attending secondary school. And of those, 5 had sought mental health support within the previous year. In each case, the youth had a supportive network around them who were willing to listen and help. All were impacted by the COVID pandemic to varying degrees, and all families reported their son to have somewhat sensitive dispositions with deep emotional responses. And of these, no connection has been drawn between the cases, despite labelling the deaths as a cluster. So what we learned was that suicide is indiscriminate. Suicide ideation shouldn't be ignored. Waiting lists are delaying access to services, and suicide stigma is very real today. I spoke with parents of these lost youth, and each family is still navigating birthdays, anniversaries and celebrations with a beloved child missing from the picture. I found that families are still grieving, hurting and wanting answers. Parents are caring for a child who has lost a sibling. Parents are angry at a system that failed their child and their family. And some parents have answers for future prevention strategies. All of them are in shock that it happened to them, as suicide is indiscriminate. Our group met one special courageous ambassador, a grieving mother. So I invite you to read our report to hear from her. She has felt pain that no person should ever have to bear. She will give you a glimpse into her world, a world of unexpected shock of the loss of a vibrant, talented, adored child. A child searching for a coping mechanism to deal with his own loss and grief while cooped up in a lockdown environment. This mother forged a network, or a grief club as she calls it, to help herself and others cope with the ongoing pain points with a child absent. And this mother now advocates to raise awareness of youth suicide and prevention strategies. So last month, the Geelong region was again reeling from the impact of another school-aged youth lost to suicide, a boy who would never become a man and a life lost too soon. The impact of this most recent suicide is heart-wrenching. However, as a community, we can make a difference, and we should be doing everything in our power to prevent any other family from living through the loss of their child. United, we can change Geelong's future story, one conversation at a time. We can all start the conversation with our precious youth. So now Luke will take you through our recommendations.
Thanks, Jo. Our project identified 5 key recommendations. The first being awareness. Our research identified that many parents were not aware that they could call Lifeline for advice in supporting a suicidal child. To create this awareness, we recommend Lifeline consider, firstly, provide a dedicated parent-branded service to increase the likelihood that parents can call when needed for support of their child. Secondly, create a localised campaign to create awareness of Lifeline's ability to assist parents, utilising such avenues as social media and PR, highlighting the role parents play and how Lifeline can support them. Without awareness, there can be no connection for parents to support or understanding of others working towards providing support. This brings us to our second recommendation, which is connection. Given the siloed approach of groups delivering similar content, it was found that parents are overwhelmed when in need. We therefore recommend that Lifeline connect with groups such as Headspace or the Suicide Prevention Workforce led by Western Victoria Primary Health Network. Our recommendation is that Lifeline seek to collaborate with the groups to be involved in the co-creation of service or provide complementary services. This brings us to our third recommendation, which is collaboration. Further collaboration is recommended for Lifeline to create a parenting program focused on suicide, as well as key contributors that can lead to suicide, such as anxiety, depression, online bullying, as well as others. Through the delivery of this program, it is important to provide clarity for parents of the role that each group plays within the mental health journey. Through collaboration and understanding of the roles of each provider, we can efficiently help and support our youth, parents, and significant others within their lives. Andrew will now take us through the final two recommendations.
Thanks, Luke. In coming to this project, I reflected as a parent how important supporting young people is. Whilst my daughters have grown up now to be young women, I vividly remember firsthand how hard it was in the middle of the night when there's no services available and you're trying to support a young person when they're having mental health issues. This is why we're so unfortunate to have Lifeline. We've heard from the group the depth of statistics on young people's mental health and parents' frustration around access to wait times and mental health services. This is why our fourth recommendation is to provide additional support for parents whilst they are waiting for care for their child. It's therefore recommended Lifeline develop content and a specific page on the website for parents to help them in the phase when they're waiting for services. This should be easy to navigate and also identify other options for supporting families during this waiting time. We've also identified that there's a need to investigate the development of peer support groups. This should be developed in partnership with other service providers to provide the opportunity for parents to support each other. Additional support services will be needed during this phase by professionals. Our research has found that young people will go to their parents for support. This is why we must be ready for the conversation. Our final recommendation is therefore to develop a campaign to increase everybody's comfort with talking about suicide. This campaign should be broad and include Lifeline's partners to create awareness and education. This could also be timed in conjunction with Lifeline's Australian national campaigns such as Through COVID and Beyond and Hello Neighbour. In summary, we need to break the long-held belief that we shouldn't be talking about suicide. In fact, we should be talking about it more. So that's our challenge to you. What are you doing to reduce the risk of youth suicide? You and your organisation, your club, association, your personal life, you can help with those conversations. It could be as easy as checking out Lifeline's website to learn more, or investigate Lifeline's half-day accidental counsellor course for people in your organisation. You can start fostering the conversations. You can have an impact and potentially save the life of a young person. Thank you.
Wow, thanks so much, guys. The Lifeline presentation was just fantastic. I really do need to point out that if this presentation has raised any issues for you or anyone listening, or if you need support or help, Lifeline's crisis number is 13 11 14. The service is available 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, so please reach out. I'm so proud of what you've achieved and the message that you're getting across. It's a tough conversation. I think we are all aware of that. This year I was honoured to be invited to be an ambassador for Lifeline Geelong and the Southwest region. And for me, it's, it's a personal journey as well. Having, dealt with some depression and anxiety throughout my life, I can understand how hard it can be. But thank God I was never in the position where I needed that kind of assistance, and neither were my children, and I didn't have to have that conversation. But I think a resource like what you guys have put together is a game changer, and really it's going to save lives. So well done. Fantastic work. It's now time to take a short break. I'd say go out and